Hey guys, my name's Ty, and I'm a senior at Decatur Heritage this year, and I'm excited to get to share with you what God showed me in His Word this week. So what I want to share with you comes out of Matthew 14, verses 15 through 21, and it's about Jesus feeding the 5,000. I've read this story many times just growing up, and every time I would just read it, Jesus fed 5,000 people with 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish, and that's really all we get out of it. I never really dug deep into it. But as I read it this week, God really opened my eyes up and showed me something that I haven't seen before. And so what I want to do is go ahead and start reading at 15, and it reads, "As evening approached, the disciples came to him and said, 'This is a remote place, and it's already getting late. Send the crowds away so they can go to the villages and buy themselves some food.' Jesus replied, 'They don't need to go away. You just give them something to eat.' 'We have here only 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish,' they answered. 'Bring them here to me,' he said. And he directed the people to sit down on the grass, and taking the 5 loaves and 2 fish, and looking up to heaven, he gave thanks and broke the loaves. Then he gave them to the disciples, and the disciples gave them to the people. They all ate and were satisfied, and the disciples picked up 12 basketfuls of broken pieces that were left over. The number of those who ate were about 5,000 men, besides the women and children." So, in verse 15, we see the disciples, they have a problem, and it's the fact that they're in the middle of nowhere with all these people. It's time to eat. It's getting late, and they don't know what to do. And so what they do, they bring their problem to Jesus, but they do what I've done before. They do what a couple other people have done before. Not only do they bring the problem, but they've already thought about it, and they bring their answer to the problem to Jesus too. And they'll be like, "Okay, Jesus, we have all these people here, and it's time to eat. It's time to go home, or it's getting late. So can you just send these people away so they can go get some food and be taken care of?" And Jesus was like, "No, what you're going to do is you're going to give them food. You give them something to eat." And this is really what Jesus was waiting on, because when the disciples answer him, like, "We only have 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. That's all we have. We don't have any more. There's no way we can feed all these people with that." Jesus tells the disciples what they tell me every time I have an excuse, or tells any of you guys when y'all try to have an excuse. It's bring it to me anyways. So that's something I struggle with a lot, is if God has a plan for me and he wants me to do something for him, I'll come up with an excuse and be like, "This is my reason why I cannot do what you've asked." So God's like, "Do a devotion for FCA for me." God, I can't do that. I'm not good at public speaking. I can't just speak and present myself well enough for somebody to understand what I'm trying to say. And God's like, "Do it for me anyways. Do it anyways." Because if I was able to do it and do it in my own power, then God doesn't get the glory out of that, because I was able to do it by myself. So what God really wants us to do is bring our weaknesses to him so he can use them to fulfill his plan that brings him glory in the end. That's what we're really created to do, is to glorify God. And if we were able to do everything in our own power, then we don't need God, and there's no need for him to have a plan or have a hand in our lives, because we can do everything by ourselves. And we know that's not true. We need him desperately. We're all sinners, and our very best is worth nothing but dirty rags. And so that's really what I got out of this, was even though the disciples didn't have enough on their own, they gave what they had to Jesus, and he was able to use that to fulfill his plan for the day, to feed all these people and bring him glory and bring God glory out of that. So